A monster with a moral code. The story of the serial killer who only hunted bad people. Have you ever heard a story where you think, yeah, there's no way this guy was ever going to turn out normal? That's Pedro Rodrigues Filho, Brazil. 1954. Rural town. Heat. Dust. Chickens in the street. Violence so normal it might as well be part of the weather forecast. Pedro wasn't just born into that world. Violence literally reshaped him before birth. His father, a violent drunk with a badge, beat his pregnant wife so much that baby Pedro came into the world with a dent in his skull. Let me say that again. The man came out with his skull already damaged because his dad treated his mom like a punching bag. Some kids are born under lucky stars. Pedro was born under a swinging fist. And from the very first breath, the universe seemed to build him out of anger, bone, and payback. People in town whispered the usual small village curses. He'll be strange. Kids born like that don't come out right. Devil's child. Or touched by fate. Turns out they were all right, in one way or another. Pedro didn't grow up watching bedtime cartoons. He grew up watching screaming matches, fists hitting flesh, his mother crying behind closed doors. When other kids were learning to tie shoes, he was learning the sound a jaw makes when it cracks. He learned early that the world has predators and prey, and he decided pretty young he wasn't going to be prey. Violence didn't shock him. It shaped him. And if life is a recipe, his childhood was 1 part abuse, 1 part poverty, lots of street crime, a dash of anger, and a brain injury to stir it all together. Spoiler, this mix does not bake into a stable adult. Every story has a breaking point. Pedro's came at 14. His father worked as a guard at a local school. Someone stole food from the school pantry. The whisper started. Fingers pointed. No proof, but small towns don't need proof. Just rumors and someone to blame. A deputy mayor decides Pedro's dad is the culprit and has him fired. Imagine being a kid, watching your abusive father, who you fear but also weirdly admire because power is power, come home humiliated and furious. That was it. The fuse met the gasoline. Pedro grabbed a shotgun. Yes, a child took a shotgun and walked right up to that deputy mayor like a scene from a movie filmed in hell. He raised the gun. He fired. The official dropped. And here's the wild part. Pedro didn't run. He didn't cry. No shaking hands. No panic. Just walked home. Then found the guy he actually believed did the stealing, a security guard, and stabbed him. 2 men dead before the kid even hit puberty. And already, in his mind, he wasn't a murderer. He was an avenger. He killed bad people. And he believed that made it right. You seeing the pattern yet? Kid kills 2 grown men, so what's next? He runs to Sao Paulo. If you don't know Sao Paulo crime in the 60s, 70s, think favela maze streets. No police presence worth anything. Survival equal sign violence, kids carrying knives, not backpacks. Pedro hit the ground sprinting. He robbed to eat, fought because he had to, and his reputation, fast, fearless, unhinged, spread quicker than ration sugar. He fell into crime like he was born for it. And weirdly, he kind of was. But here's where the story twists. Pedro wasn't the random, senseless killer Hollywood loves. He operated by a code, his own twisted DIY moral system. He hated rapists, abusers, traitors, anyone who hurt women, anyone who betrayed friends or family. He saw the world as a hierarchy, decent criminals, whatever, predators. Fair game. Kill them. Anyone who wronged him. They were already dead, they just didn't know it yet. He met a girl, Maria. The one soft spot in his life. Somehow a flower grew through concrete. He loved her. Actually loved her. Then she was killed in a gang feud. Pedro didn't grieve like a normal person. He grieved in bullets and blades, crashing a gang wedding party and turning it into a massacre. That sealed his fate. Cops caught him. Cage opened. Enter. Prison. You think prison breaks men? For Pedro, prison was level up mode. Imagine being a violent, revenge-obsessed kid and walking into a Brazilian prison in the 70s. It's not like prison today. It's not even like the worst prisons you've seen on YouTube. It was medieval. But here's the plot twist. Pedro didn't walk in scared. He walked in like a wolf dropped into a farmyard. In the police transport truck, chained next to him, was a guy accused of rape. Pedro. He saw that as an invitation. By the time they stopped, that man wasn't breathing. Guards didn't even have time to process it. The legend began right there, on the metal floor of that truck. Inside, inmates tested him, as they do. Worst mistake of their lives. He hunted predators, protected weaker inmates, became judge, jury, executioner. He wasn't chaos. He was organized murder with selective ethics. Rumor count depends who you ask. Approximately 70 killed total tilde 40 plus in prison alone. Sometimes killed multiple prisoners at once. Once sat sharpening a toothbrush handle waiting to take revenge on someone. He killed child abusers, rapists, murderers, snitches, People who deserved it by his definition. Some inmates feared him. Some idolized him. Some secretly hoped he'd protect them. Prison psychologists interviewed him, expecting remorse or madness. Instead, they got calm logic. I killed the ones who deserved it. He smiled when he said it, not a cackle, not a dramatic villain grin, more like someone explaining their favorite hobby. And then the darkest chapter, Pedro's father, the man who abused his mom, the man whose violence arguably created Pedro, killed Pedro's mother. Years later, they ended up in the same prison. Pedro didn't hesitate. He stabbed his father to death. And according to Pedro himself in interviews, he cut out part of his father's heart and bit it. I don't care how tough you think you are. That's horror movie level real life grotesque. But in Pedro's mind, justice, balance, cosmic symmetry, he paid back the pain with interest. People love categorizing killers. Makes them feel safe, like monsters fit in boxes. Serial killer, vigilante, psychopath, avenger. Pedro broke categories. He wasn't killing random innocents. He wasn't killing for sexual thrill. He wasn't driven by delusions or demons' voices. He killed because he believed the world was rotten and someone had to clean it. And in his head, he was the janitor. Imagine if Batman ditched the suit, lost the rulebook, and replaced years of therapy with a knife and rage issues. That's Pedro. Except unlike fictional vigilantes, he killed everyone he judged guilty. Real death. Real bodies. Real consequences. And somehow, the public reaction was weirdly mixed. Fear plus disgust plus this uncomfortable fascination. Because deep down, part of society always wonders, what if someone actually cleaned up the monsters? Doesn't make it right, but explains the unsettling attraction. Brazilian law had sentencing limits. So despite dozens of murders, Pedro eventually walked free in 2007 after approximately 34 years behind bars. Imagine being him. The world has changed. Internet. Cell phones. People filming everything. And this man, this living myth, this walking contradiction, he becomes a YouTuber. Yes. He made videos about crime prevention, morality, avoiding gangs, how prison destroys you, warning young people not to become like him. He'd hold up a phone like some casual influencer, with scars and a lifetime of trauma etched into his face. Some folks believed him. Some thought it was PR. Some found it surreal. A murderer giving life advice. A vigilante preaching peace. A wolf teaching wolves not to bite. And here's the strangest part. He seemed sincere. Not in a trust me bro way. More like a demon trying to keep others from hell, because he finally understood its geography too well. He said he regretted the life. Not the targets. The waste of life itself. He didn't apologize. He reflected. There's nuance there, uncomfortable and raw. Society doesn't like nuance when it comes to killers. Heroes are monsters only, nothing in between. Pedro lived in between. Then, 2023, a quiet neighborhood near São Paulo. Pedro sitting in a car. Normal Sunday stuff. Until it wasn't. A black car rolled up. Windows down. Muzzle flash. Shots. Dozens. People screaming. Bullet holes Swiss cheesing the car. Pedro slumped over. Killed like he killed others. Cycle closed. Violence in. Violence out. The world looked at his corpse and didn't know how to feel. Relief? Justice. Irony? Sadness for a life twisted beyond repair from birth. All emotions were valid. Because he wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was what happens when violence raises a child and the world shrugs. He didn't get redemption. He didn't get eternal punishment. He got exactly what he lived. Death delivered. Death received. A circle of blood drawn around a life that never had a chance to be anything else. You want the truth. Pedro Rodrigues Filho was a murderer, a vigilante, a broken boy who grew into a deadly man, a product of brutality and poverty, a warning, a paradox. He's what happens when the world builds a weapon instead of a child. And when you look at his life, you see not just him, you see a mirror held up to society's darkest corners. We love stories where bad guys get punished. But what if the Punisher becomes the darkest thing in the room? Is he justice? Or is he just another monster wearing purpose like a mask? That's the question Pedro leaves us with. Not was he good or was he evil? But what makes a monster, birth, choice, or the world around him? And if society creates someone like Pedro, does it get to pretend innocence?